Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Hope you're having a great day. And with no further ado, let's get into the week 15 picks. But it's crazy to say we're in week 15, but yeah, we are almost done with the regular season. So let's start off with tonight's game. Bucks hosting the Falcons, Tampa Bay. It has been a struggle since the bye. I mean, they have been very, very inconsistent so far. I know they've been banged up all throughout the offensive and defensive side, but this team, which had a fairly big lead early on, it's evaporated. They're now tied with the Panthers. They need this win because they play Carolina next week and then in week 18. So you got to get these, not just division wins, but you got to get wins to stay alive. Taking on a Falcons team that looked good in the first half and then just gave up in the second half. And even though I think both these coaches should be fired at the end of the year, I'm just gonna go with the better team in the Bucks to get the win. Even though I'm not that confident in Tampa Bay, especially with the way they played against the Saints last week. But we'll just have to see. Moving on to Cardinals at the Texans, Arizona. They seem lifeless at this point. Like against the Rams, it was close early, and you thought maybe they could keep it close for at least the first half, but then the Rams ran away with it. And they're taking on a great Houston defense. The offense is starting to get there, and a Texans team that very much could win the AFC South when it's all said and done. I just think Houston, the better team, and the team that has the better coach, which is crazy. Both Jonathan Gannon and DeMeco Ryans came in 2023 as head coaches. Gannon might be gone, and Ryans might make his third straight playoff appearance if Houston's able to get there, which right now they are, and we'll see how the rest of the year goes. But that's just crazy that two guys from the same head coaching cycle, one could be fired after his third year, and one could make his third straight playoff appearance. Moving on to the Browns at the Bears. Chicago coming off a tough loss to a very good Packers team. Taking on a Browns team that named Shador the starter for the rest of the year, so there's not going to be any speculation of Dylan Gabriel coming in. Shador is the guy, and he played really well against a not so great Titans defense. But that Browns defense got torched against Cam Ward and a Titans offense that hadn't looked good all year. I don't know if that was just because Tennessee finally decided to play inspired, or if Cleveland's defense maybe is starting to get exposed. Either way, I'm taking the better team and the Bears to get a win. And if the Packers lose later on to the Broncos, Chicago could be right back in first place. And they're probably rooting for the Lions to beat the Rams because then Chicago would be right back into the number one seed of the NFC. So it'd be crazy if after losing to the Packers one week, they get back up to the top of the North and even the number one seed once again with 3 weeks remaining. Moving on to an AFC West class, Chargers at Chiefs, KC, holding on to those slim playoff odds against the Chargers team, banged up. But I mean, both teams are banged up all throughout the offensive line. But I gotta just trust the better team, which is crazy to say, but it's the Chargers. LA has looked better all throughout the year, and I don't know. Maybe it's Andy Reid's old age, but maybe the Chiefs are just losing that edge they used to have on offense. And maybe some big things are coming for Kansas City in the offseason. And I think the Chargers maybe put a dent in the Chiefs' playoff hopes. They play Denver next week. If they lose these next two games, they're fully eliminated. And that'd be crazy to say that Patrick Mahomes is not in the playoffs, but it's just the team around him has not played great, and he's kind of tried to carry this team, and it just hasn't really worked. Moving on to an AFC North class, Ravens at the Bengals. Cincinnati still technically alive to, yeah, still technically alive to win the AFC North, and to make the playoffs, taking on a Ravens team that, I mean, looks lifeless. I mean, as a Ravens fans, I honestly hope they lose this game so they can finally make big changes to actually turn this team into an actual forward thinking team. But I think honestly, I'm not really sure. I'm gonna go with the Ravens because they're the better team, and I don't think they're gonna get swept by the Bengals. But honestly, with the way the Ravens playing the past couple of weeks, it might just be time for the Ravens just to finally accept that they need to move on from Harbaugh and bring in an actual coaching staff that will help Lamar get to the Super Bowl. Moving on to an AFC East clash, Bills at the Patriots. In New England, with a win, could lock up the AFC East because obviously they beat the Bills earlier in the year in Buffalo. So they could win this game, secure the AFC East, and then just worry about trying to win the AFC. Buffalo, huge back-to-back wins against not so great opponents in the Steelers and Bengals. And I really want to go with Buffalo because I feel like the Pats aren't going to sweep them, but I just trust New England this year. Like the Bills' defense has been vulnerable. I mean, we saw that against the Bengals, and New England has a very good defense that, yes, isn't a absolute unit that like you'll not be able to score points on, but I mean, we saw in that first matchup, New England was able to make Josh Allen have turnover problems and make him not look the greatest. And I think with how this team's evolved, they could be even better and the Pats secure the AFC East. Moving on to an NFC East showdown between Washington and New York. Both teams not been looking the greatest. Um, Both teams are also on long losing streaks. Washington's lost 8 straight. The Giants have lost 7 straight. So one team is going to end their losing streak, and I'm going with the Giants. They've just they've just had a lot more momentum. Like New York's when Jackson Dart came in, he really made that team look better. I know he didn't play the greatest a couple weeks ago against the Pats, but New England's really good against a Washington team that seems lifeless at this point. I'm going to trust the Giants, which is crazy to say, but I'm going to trust New York to get a huge win and maybe build some momentum to the future. And hopefully they bring in the right coach around Dart and this team to maybe finally get back to those Eli Manning Super Bowl leading teams. Moving on, Raiders at the Eagles. Philly, it has not been the greatest the last couple of weeks. 3 straight losses, and the offense just has not looked the greatest. Taking on a Raiders team that seems like Kenny Pickett will be starting, which Kenny Pickett revenge game. Remember, he was on the Eagles as a backup last year. But I'm gonna go with the better team and hope the Eagles come out inspired. Because this Raiders team is not very good, and if this game is close and Philly even loses this game, I mean, it might just be a wrap. And Nick Sirianni maybe should be on the hot seat because, well, yes, he's led them to 2 Super Bowls and 4 straight playoff appearances. Um, it's just the team, unless they have really great coordinators on both sides of the ball, have not had great success. And that kind of resembles the coach not making the right calls. So if they lose this game or if it's even close, I feel like you got to consider moving on from Nick Sirianni and actually bringing in a coach who maybe can help this team contend year in and year out and aren't flopping because of bad coordinators. Moving on, Jets at the Jags. Remember this game last year in Jacksonville between two not so great teams, and Davante Adams had like a legacy game, and it was Mac Jones and Aaron Rodgers dueling. Now it's Trevor Lawrence against who knows who the Jets quarterback is, but I'm gonna go with the Jags. I just trust them more. They've looked more consistent the past couple of weeks. And against the Jets team that probably will have an undrafted free agent starting at quarterback, I just don't see any way the Jets keep this game even close, and the Jags should blow them out. Going on to the 4 o'clock slate, Titans at the Niners. Tennessee, huge win last week against a very stout Browns defense. So I think if they keep that momentum going, they could give the Niners um, some problems. But I think at home, the Niners get the win and keep pace with their NFC West foes in Seattle and LA, and also keep pace in a wild card race that is continuing to um, get closer and closer. So, yeah. Moving on to the Colts at the Seahawks. Phillip Rivers, will he be starting or will it be Riley Leonard? I think the Colts hope it'll be Riley Leonard. I don't think they want to put Phillip Rivers at 44 years old out there. I think they more so just signed him because they were like, we just need another quarterback in the room. Taking on a Seattle team that has just looked amazing, and yeah, I'm going Seattle. They need to win this game to set up a huge game next week against the Rams, where winner would be in sole position of first place. And this Seattle team is looking amazing against a Colts team that is starting to fall apart and might just end up losing out and missing the playoffs. Speaking of the Rams, they are hosting the Lions. Goff, Stafford. I think this would be like the fourth time they've played since the trade back in 2021. Um, Detroit, I think, is 2-1 because they won the wild card game and then last year's opening game. I'm going to say the Rams get this win. Detroit will obviously keep this close. Both teams know each other well, but the Lions just don't look the same they were earlier in the year. Maybe that's due to injuries. But a Rams team that is rolling and looks like a complete domination and a Super Bowl favorite right now. I think you got to go with the Rams to get the win. Moving on, Broncos hosting the Packers. Two teams at the top of their conferences trying to get huge wins to keep pace. But this is an interesting one because both teams have had offenses that have been very inconsistent, but they've had defenses that have been incredible. So it's like, which offense do I trust more? I trust the Packers offense more, but it's in Denver. And I think this Broncos team continues that winning streak, makes it 11 in a row, and they keep that number one seed for now when the Packers fall outside the North for first place if this were to happen. Moving on, Panthers at the Saints, an NFC South duel. Carolina, I mean, they have been one of the more inconsistent teams this year. Like 1 week they have looked like they could be a wild card team that could give, division champ a test, and then other weeks they look like they're not even going to make the playoffs. Taking on a Saints team that looked really good last week. Tyler Shuck probably had his best game so far. Looked really good. Two teams that have young QBs who are trying to hope they can be the future guy. I'm going to go with the Panthers off the bye, getting healthier. And I just hope, the way they played against the Rams 2 weeks ago, maybe they can finally continue that performance and start to play well down the stretch where, hey, they could maybe win this NFC South and dethrone the Bucks and make the first playoffs since 2017. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, Vikings at the Cowboys. Two teams that have very interesting seasons. Minnesota maybe hoped they'd be in contention for the North. Doesn't really seem like it. Dallas has probably had better than they expected. obviously you wish they won last week to get this division closer, but I think Dallas handles the games they need to win down the stretch and at least keeps this division close enough where it's like maybe if Philly slips up against a not so great team, maybe Dallas can sneak in and get this division. And then finally, Monday Night Football, Dolphins at the Steelers. Miami, they've won 5 of 6, 3 or 4 straight since firing Chris Greer. Mike McDaniel really saved his job and shown if Miami can bring in a quarterback of his choosing, not Tua, this team probably could be, you know, a threat in the AFC for years to come. Taking on a Steelers team that has not looked great. I mean, they won last week against a not so good Ravens team. Um, and I'm gonna go with the Dolphins on the road. I know everybody's gonna say, "Oh, Tua can't win in the cold," but I think Miami is rolling right now. They look really good, and I think Miami continues to play well because they have the Bengals next week, and then the Bucks weren't playing playing the greatest, and then they have the Pats. And if New England's not playing for anything, they could finish 10-7 and possibly be in the playoff picture. Maybe not make it, but they could end the year on a high note if they get these wins together. But that'll do it for you guys. You have a great day. Hope you hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell. And I'll catch you guys next. I'll catch you guys in the next video. But until then, bye.